right, and we're recording.
Hello, Stedham Eagles. Today is Tuesday, October the 19th. We are here to share some very exciting news concerning testing. Mrs. Pierce, Mrs. Kirk, and Mrs. Culpepper and I attended a training, and we want to share what we found out. But before we begin, we have some reminders for you teachers. Make sure that you have completed the STAR projected numbers, and your lead teacher has that information. I'm sure they've already been working on it. They just need to dump those numbers in that Google Doc, and it's going to be embedded at the bottom of this SMORE presentation. And it's referring to the number of students that will be taking the regular STAR test, oral admin, large print, Spanish version, and or Spanish oral admin. So please make sure you give us these numbers by Friday. We'll extend the deadline. We have a lot of things going on, and we support you all. The next will be the COGAT schedule. That schedule was sent to you on this morning, the revised version. We had one change, so please adhere to the COGAT testing. If you are a kindergarten, first, or fifth grade teacher, we will begin testing on Monday. So now we'll go ahead and jump into the actual sharing of the testing information. In reference to the STAR accessibility update, there were some major changes and new additions that we found out about the STAR testing for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. So first, there is an online tutorial option and our practice test for any students, and it is already located on our desktops, and it's actually that Texas flag icon. So if you would like your students to go in and begin practicing looking at those questions, they are more than able to do so at this time, but there is a difference in the two. The practice test is very content specific and also grade level specific, as opposed to the online tutorial. The tutorial only gives the children options to practice the tools, the computer options and things of that nature. So just be mindful of the two options there. The next thing that we found out was the dictionaries. All students that are taking the reading and or writing STAR test will be able to use a dictionary. And TEA has said 1 to 5 ratio is wonderful, but Garland is saying 1 to TEA is saying 1 to 3 and Garland is saying 1 to 5. But Mrs. Kirk has been working diligently on those dictionary numbers, so we can possibly have each student have their own dictionary, but at the worst case scenario, 1 to 5. So every 5 students would share one dictionary for reading and or writing STAR. The next is that last year we were able to offer some students the online embedded opportunities. Well, this year we will still have 3, but the 3 choices are now different. So what they have done, they have combined the vocabulary and content support into one. The second would be the text to speech, and then the third, and the new one, is the spelling check. So students that need help with spelling, they would have a little red squiggly line underneath any misspelled words. So that's really, really nice for the students. So if you choose for your students to have that, that is an option this year. And remember, the way that we know this is that everything is filtered through 3 things. 1, have the students been using these accommodations efficiently? 2, effectively, and 3rd, routinely throughout the entire school year. And this must be documented in the form of, for example, an iLab or 504 notes. Somewhere it needs to be documented that the students have actually been using it successfully all year. So let's start now giving the students things that they need to be successful. And then another is that they have kind of tiered the offerings for the students, the ways that they can receive help. So the first tier is that any students can have these accessibility features. And I'm going to upload a list of those things into a specific location. We'll tell you where that is going to be a little bit later in the presentation. But all students can have certain things. For example, sticky notes and index cards and highlighters, things of that nature. So that's tier 1. Tier 2 would be the local decision, and that would look like Mrs. Pierce's 501 committee or Mrs. Rollo's ARD committee or Mrs. Kirk's LPAC committee. So any offering where people come together as a committee to make a decision for the students. That's that local decision. And then the third is called an ARF, and that stands for Accommodations Request Form, and that's specifically for any SPED student. And it's very hard. Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. It's very hard to get this approved, but it's only for special education students needing special needs. For example, extended day. So if a student needs an extended day, they would be able to get that in the form of the ARF. And if they do have extended day, they have to use it. So if we say they need extended day and they end up not using it, that's not good. So if we say they need it, they must use it. Even if it appears they're going to finish that first day, go on ahead and break it up into 2 days so that it extends to that 2-day request. Okay, so that's something you really have to think about with Ms. Fisher, Mrs. Rollo, and any teacher that has a special needs student. And then the last is that in thinking about the oral administration of the STAR, there are 2 major ways that the students can receive oral admin. And the first being if they need the questions and answers read to them, and or they have a change of support. So those are things we need to be thinking about already early in the school year and allowing those students to get that accommodation if they need it read to them and in what form. And then the last is just a name change. Last year, all of these things it was called the general accommodations, but this year they've changed it to designated support. And we saw that last year on the online things, it's a DS, but all of these will now be called designated supports. So again, make sure you filled out the Google Doc that's attached at the bottom of this SMORE presentation. That's the lead teacher to do for your team, please. And then make sure that the students are using these accommodations routinely, effectively, and efficiently throughout the entire school year. And that is all that we have for you. We thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.